Brown, Clementa Pinckney, Tywanza Sanders,
Amadou Diallo, Sandra Bland,
Sharonda Coleman Singleton,
Walter Scott,
Susie Jackson,
Sean Bell, Tamir Rice,
Ethel Lance,
Christian Taylor,
Cynthia Hurd,
Eric Garner,
Myra Thompson,
Trayvon Norton,
Daniel Simmons, DePayne Middleton Doctor,
Freddie Gray,
James Byrd,
Emmett Till,
Kamani Gray,
John Crawford III, Columbine, Sandy Hook,
Virginia Tech.
come together, holy people, we've got to come together, yes, with all of the strength, power, and feeling. Oh, holy, holy, holy. Come together, one another, holy. We should believe in one another. Yes, we should. Jesus left a long time ago. Said he would return. He left us a book to believe in. We've got a lot to learn. Holy, 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 holy. dreamscapes at night. Boy, how you love me right. Where could I go? What could I say? Where could I go to ease my mind? I know love's come and go, but the one thing I know, no one could ever even compare. 'Cause I miss you so much, darling, for such a long, long time. We love so honest and true, but out of the blue, there was no me and you. That chapter was through, and I was singing blues. Blessed fate brought you back to me, and me to you. Yeah, you gotta admit, we got the same old, same old love. Yes, we do. Ah, same old lovely love, same old lovely love. Whatever the reason, whatever the rhyme, love you for all season, for all time. Let's take this chance, give away to romance. Come on, baby, let's dance, dance, dance together, together. This mad dance together. Thank the powers that be that brought you back to me. Oh, slip your arms around my waist, baby. Hold me closer, closer still. Come on, baby. I can't tell where you begin, but I know I fit in. Yeah, yeah. So much deep emotion, an overflowing ocean of love. That's what I have, like no time has gone by. Can we give it one more try? Yeah, stay honest and true. You for me and me for you. Oh, we are such a delicious mate. You gotta admit, this is how it's supposed to be. Like I said, you for
Yeah,
me
he's on the
and
job.
me for you. Time is so precious. It's the same old, same old, same. Such a sweet, same old, same lovely, lovely love. Such a sweet, lovely, 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 lovely love. Oh, love's come and go. I've had my share, but one thing I know I say, no one could ever compare. And I try, baby, sweet and lovely, lovely So much trouble in the world today. Life's so hard it takes my breath away. Is there anything to do or say to bring some joy to light? I know I can raise my voice and sing about love and let freedom rain down on us all.
listening to the sounds of SR5 Radio 701.4. I am Dr. Lovely here in the studio with the honeys, and we're on the mic bringing jams and rhythms tailor-made for your delight. Something for your spirit, something for your mind. Let the music take your body, leave your worries behind. So we want to know, what's your flavor? Is it sweet? Is it hot? Is it cool? Is it not? Maybe you're living fast, maybe you're laying low. Maybe you're feeling high, maybe you're moving slow. However you feel it, don't be shy, be proud. Live it how you feel it, and live it out loud.
Oh, I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I'm living out loud. Even when I don't know what to sing, I'm listening out loud. And when the world turns upside down, I'm loving out loud. 'Cause I can see the blessings all around, and I'm grateful. I'm laughing out loud. Oh, laughing out loud. My, my, my.
Operator, information. Give me Jesus on the line. Hey, operator, information. I'd like to speak to friend of mine. Prayer is the number, and faith, heaven is the stream. Jesus is his name. Operator, information.
Good morning. I would like to ask for all program participants to please come to the stage. All program participants. And is Reverend Mann here? If so, please come to the stage. Who's the name? Martin? She will take care of him.
Sweet, sweet honey, 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 sweet, sweet, sweet. We have come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, and depending on the Lord, trusting in His holy word, trusting and depending on His word. He's never failed me, never ever failed. Singing, oh, can't turn around. We've come this far by faith. We have come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, leaning and depending on the Lord, trusting in His holy word, trusting and depending on His word. He's never failed me, never ever failed. Singing, oh, can't turn around. We've come this far by faith. Sing, oh, can't turn around. We've come this far. We've come this far. We've come this far by faith.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the 2025 Martin and Coretta King Unity Breakfast, where our theme this year is piecing the unity puzzle for our freedom. Now, I recognize that people can see that we have a very packed program, And with that packed program, we have time limits. And I'm going to ask the speakers to please work with me this morning because I don't want to leave here with more gray hair than I came in with. And I know that we have many other activities that we need to get to for the rest of the day. So if the speakers will work with me, we'll be successful. Now, let me go ahead and tell you that we have a timer that's in the back facing this podium. When your time is up, you're going to see the clock because it's going to let you know your time is up. Now, if you continue to talk, I will be coming up on the stage, but also we're going to have an added feature for you this year. We're going to play some music. That lets you know your time is really up. So please work with me, all right? One of the things that we also want to talk about is that piecing the unity puzzle together, each speaker has a piece of the puzzle. And that's why it's important for all speakers to be heard. So we will now begin our program and have our unity prayer by Dr. Donetha Griffin, Executive Assistant to the President of Wallace Community College.
Good morning. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for who you are, that you are such an amazing God. We come before you this morning. We lift you up. We magnify you. We exalt you. We give your name glory. We give your name honor. We give your name praise for the great God that you are. We thank you, God, that your presence is in this room. And we thank you, dear God, that you've said in your word that you dwell in unity. And we thank you this morning that you are bringing peace. You are bringing comfort to a world that is dry and thirsty where there is no water. But we thank you this morning, dear God, that you are the bread of life. You are the living water, that we can trust in you, dear God, for all things. We're not moved by what we see, by what we hear, but we are moved by only what we know. And what we know that you are the great I am. You are the all-sufficient one. You are our Redeemer, our Savior. You are the lover of our soul. And you said in your word that you would not withhold any good things from us. And we thank you, dear God, that we can trust that you will keep every one of your promises. We lean not to our own understanding, but in all of our ways, God, we acknowledge you and we know that you will direct our paths. We come this morning seeking you for guidance, for protection, for a way, dear God, to please you. And we pray this morning, dear God, that you would search our hearts. And if there's anything in our hearts, in our anxious thoughts that offend you, lead us to a path of righteousness that would lead us to eternal life. Touch every heart that's in this place. Touch every mind that's in this place. Let everything that's said and done bring glory to you and to you alone. We thank you this morning. We thank you for the food. We thank you for the hands that prepared it. We thank you for the people that are here. We thank you for safe travel to and from our destinations. We give you glory this morning. We give you glory this morning. We give you glory this morning, for it is in your Son Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin. At this time, we will have the welcome by this group of speakers, and I will remind them 2 minutes. We have the mayor of City of Selma, James Perkins, followed by Jimmy Nunn, probate judge, Dallas County, followed by Senator Robert Stewart, Senate District 23 of Alabama.
Good morning. takes me 2 minutes to clear my throat. But on behalf of the city of Selma, its 17,000 plus citizens, 200 municipal employees who have worked feverishly to prepare our community for your arrival, the 9 members of the Selma, thank you, give them a hand, thank you. 9 members of the Selma City Council and one God, we greet you into Selma. We trust that you will receive what you came after. Usually when people come to Selma, they're coming for the inspiration of the movement. They're coming for the energy of the movement to carry back into your respective communities. We trust and we hope that you get every ounce of what you came for, and then when you go back into your respective homes, that you galvanize, you energize, and let's do the work that is necessary to improve the quality of life for the people with whom we serve. For all of the success you have already experienced, all of the challenges that are before us, I say to you, to God be the glory. Mr. President, I did it in less than 2 minutes.
Let me say good morning, everyone. Good. I think I got about 40 extra. I got the mayor's 40 seconds, so that'll give me a little bit more time. Again, good morning, everyone, to all of... Thank you. To everyone that's here this early and bright morning, it's just good to be here. Giving honor to God, who is the head of my life, and to you, y'all got so many beautiful faces who are out there. To the president of this great college that's putting this on, Dr. Mitchell, and to Hank Sanders, and to Fire Rose, and to all of the guests, all of the elected officials, the dignitaries. What a great day it is in Selma and Dallas County, Alabama. Really, really a wonderful day here. I'm grateful and honored to have the opportunity to welcome you to Dallas County. And as I always say, welcome you to our home. This is our home. This is where we live. This is where we work on a daily basis. On behalf of the Dallas County Commission and as your probate judge, we are honored to share with you on this annual Martin Luther King Unity Breakfast. This morning, we honor the contributions of one of the greatest champions of racial justice and equality, and that is Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. It affords us the opportunity to reflect upon the attributes while pressing forward to the future. Dr. King once said that the time is always right to do what is right. These words should ring in our ears on a daily basis. We would like to congratulate Wallace Community College on a job well done this morning and this week, and to Fire Toure and to Senator Sanders. You are a very important part of Dallas County. Your contributions help to bring Dallas County together. On behalf of my office as probate judge and chairman of the Dallas County Commission, along with the commissioners, we want to welcome you to our home. Again, thank you, and y'all have a great day.
Good morning. We can do better than that. Good morning. Happy Jubilee. Happy Selma 60. I am Alabama Senator Robert Stewart, and it is an honor to be here today. I'm a Selma, Alabama native, and it's an honor to be the progeny of those who came before me, who paved the way for us, the foot soldiers, the freedom fighters, the organizers who gave way to the culmination of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's what it's all about. Yes. Frederick Douglass once said that power concedes nothing without a demand. We are living in very precarious times, but it's essential for us to be in community. I need somebody to say community. for us to advocate for better lives. Before I leave, I just want to say thank you to the organizers, Senator Hank, Attorney Fire Rose, to Ray, for their advocacy, working to build a new South. I need somebody to say a new South. And that is what we will have. God bless you all.
Next, we will have the unity greetings from Senator Hank Sanders, Chair of the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute, followed by Mrs. Rebecca Marion, Chair of the Selma Bridge Crossing Jubilee Incorporated, followed by Mia Suggs, President of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Zeta Eta Omega Chapter, and they have 2 minutes.
Good morning. History is powerful, whether good or bad. But it's only powerful for good if we stand on it, because we can see further and we can reach higher. I was the first chairperson of the National Voting Rights Museum. When Faya and I started, she was the first volunteer executive director. And that was in 1991. And the museum has been extremely important because it tells the history just like it is. But the museum is on hard time. So we ask you to find a way to help support the museum. Help to support the museum. Because if we don't stand on our history will stand on us.
Good morning. It's really a blessing to be able to stand here before you all to bring you greetings on behalf of the Bridge Crossing Jubilee. We have been blessed to be here again to honor such a lady. The Lord has enabled some of us to personally know and others to read and study her character and time on this earth. Without you, we could not put this event on every year, and don't you think for one time we could do it all by ourselves, because we know we can't. So we appreciate you dearly. On behalf of the board, our founders, Rose and Hank Sanders, again, I would like to welcome you. Thank you.
Good morning. I bring you greetings on behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Eta Omega Chapter of Selma, Alabama. This annual unity breakfast that honors Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King is a time to reflect and honor their legacy. This year's theme, Piecing the Unity Puzzle for Our Freedom, is a reminder that we must continue to rotate, add, as well as make each piece of the unity puzzle fit in order to continue to have rights as well as live in a democratic society. We live in a country that many fought for civil rights, and it is still a continuous fight. as they could easily be taken away. We must unite, raise awareness, and become educated voters to continue the dream of Dr. King. The dream can be continued by not forgetting the past, living in the present, and focusing on the future of civil rights in our communities throughout the world. In closing, as Dr. King answered questions from students and faculty in Cornell University's Schrate Memorial Room on the 13th of November of 1960, after delivering the dimensions of a complete life, he stated this quote that resonates today. Unity has never meant uniformity, which means we can join as a whole and remain the same in all cases at the same time. Thank you.
At this time, are the Freedom Singers here? I haven't seen them, but that doesn't mean they're not here. Okay, they're not here yet. We'll move on. We will have now a recognition of elected officials, special guests, and sponsors. At this time, I'd like to ask that all elected officials and all candidates for elected office please stand. We'd like to thank you for all you have done and all you continue to do. We need you now more than ever. I would also like to recognize our foot soldiers. Would all our foot soldiers please stand and be recognized? And at this time, I'd like to recognize, and I know they're working very hard, but the people who pay me are the WCCS ambassadors who are here helping with serving, but they're the people who pay me, so I definitely have to recognize them. Our WCCS ambassadors. Our sponsors for this program: Selma to Montgomery 50th Anniversary Commemoration Foundation, Wallace Community College Selma, Selma Bridge Crossing Jubilee, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, 21st Century Youth Leadership Movement, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Let's give them a round of applause. Our major supporters: Protective Life Foundation, Google LLC, Melville Charitable Trust, American Civil Liberties Union, Congresswoman Terry Sewell, Whitehall Entertainment, Faith and Politics Institute. Let's give them a round of applause. Committee members for the Unity Breakfast: Senator Hank Sanders, Khadijah Ishak, Marie Jones, Priscilla Mitchell, and Elizabeth Rutledge, Sharon Wheeler. All right, we are moving right along. At this time, we will have special words on the bridge crossing by Fire Rose. And Fire, you have 3 minutes.
You can't have no freedom rally without a freedom song. I'm going to take 30 seconds of my time to sing. I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. I woke up this morning with I woke up this morning. All right, y'all, that's 20 seconds. Again, I'm losing my voice, of course. I want to thank all of you who've supported the museum and the Jubilee for years. Unity, more than any time in history since the Civil War, do we need unity. And unfortunately, there are a lot of us not in this room that don't want to unify because they say it's not time. When Jesse Jackson ran, people said it was not time. When Shirley Chisholm ran, people said what? It was not time. We finally had a victory in our first black president, but we didn't get our first black woman president because there were people who said what? But it was time for a dictator to be the president? I want to say that it's time to save democracy. It is time to save democracy. In 1965, for the first time, we got democracy, an inclusive democracy, but we lost it in 2013. It is time for us to save democracy. I have a paper here. I've been trying to sell it, but I'm going to give it to you. Because on the back of it, there's a code where you can donate to a museum that's trying to save democracy. We're not just an ordinary museum. This is not just an ordinary Jubilee. We are determined to do our best to save democracy. With my last 30 seconds, I would like to say this, and this is going to make some people feel uncomfortable. But Congressman Clyburn wanted a unified march. We've been meeting with him for months to have a unified march. We changed the time of the march to 12 o'clock. 30 years, it's been 2. Because of respect for him and Congressman Sewell, we changed the time. And one thing he asked Faith in Politics to do was to go into that museum. But Friday, when they got to that bridge and got to the bottom of that bridge, they would not go into that museum because they said they had no time. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, it is time, past time, for us to fight with everything within us for democracy. We don't have to have total unity, but those of us who are willing to fight, we got to do what? Fight to save this democracy, not just for a few, but for all of us. Say, all of us. All of us. Thank you.
Sound man, what happened to the music? Okay. At this time, is Azale Fortier here? Azale? All right. We're going to be jumping around on the program because obviously some speakers are here and some are not, but we're not going to keep waiting, so we'll call you, and you might be up before you see your name on the program. At this time, we will have DeMark Liggins, President and CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. 3 minutes.
Amen. Good morning. How's everybody doing? All right. I do want to thank everybody for being here. I want to particularly thank Senator Sanders and Ms. Rose. I am always minded that of all the marches and all the things that happen in this country, the one that always has an annual commemoration is Selma. And though the moment was powerful, it's because the two of them are here in this city. And they made it a point to make sure that this nation never forgot Selma and never forgot this moment. And I just think we cannot overextend our gratitude to them for being here. As we think about this day and thinking about unity and what that means, I always think that unity is one of those things that remind me of love. If anybody who knows me, I talk a lot at SCLC about our legacy. I talk about our leadership, and I talk about our love. Love to me is one of those things that is so much more powerful than we give it credit to, because love is what we do. And I think when you think about unity in this moment, it's really important when you think about love, because we live in a world where folks want us to focus on hate. They want us to focus on the fact that they hate us. They want us to focus on the fact that they hate our rights. They want us to focus on the fact that they hate our institutions, for that matter. And it's very easy for all of us to wake up and get inundated and outraged at their hate. But at the end of the day and in these moments, it's important to remember that the way we move forward is to remember who we love and why we love, because it's always going to be centered on how we all work in this room as those who love us is how we're going to make it. We are not going to make it if we all keep walking out of these rooms and talking about the people who hate us. That has never been the fight. The fight has always been and will continue to be, we love each other, and how we all leave these moments, how we move across that bridge and then talk to each other next week and make sure that we all fight together. We fight with strength, we fight with purpose. That is what's going to define the next Selma moment. It's going to define how we respond to this, excuse me, and it's how ultimately, as we piece this puzzle together for unity, how we will move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Congresswoman Sewell here? Christian Clark. Okay. Dr. Joe L. Reed, Chair of the Alabama Democrats Conference. 3 minutes, Dr. Reed.
First, let me thank the sponsors, thank the planners, and thank all those who worked this program up. I know it's difficult because we all go through this from time to time. Particularly, I want to thank the Sanders family. I know what it's like. I applaud you. It's time to close ranks, people. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble from the big office in Washington, the White House, the president. Don't you think for one time, he's not serious about doing us in. He wants to go back to make America great again. That's by his definition. It's not a definition for us. You know what making America great again means? It means denying us our rights. He's already started. Lyndon Johnson issued an order in 1964, an executive order, and he's already changed that. Already. We got problems. I also want to acknowledge that I feel good because we got a special person in this room that was not here last year in the same capacity that he's in now, and that's the new congressman from Mobile, Alabama, the 2nd Congressional District, Mobile, Montgomery, and 13 other counties. Congressman Figgers, we're glad you are here. His mother's here and all the rest are here. I want to thank all you ADC people for your support over the years and your unity over the years. We've made it thus far because of one thing, that's unity. One thing. Is our Reverend Kelly here? Chairman of the Alabama Democratic Party, first black chairman we've had a Democratic Party. And we also have the chairman of the Democratic National Committee here. We want to acknowledge him. I know somebody else is going to do it, but I wasn't going to miss my chance to do so either. So a lot of things are going on, but we got to stay unified. We got to stay unified. Somebody mentioned earlier, sometimes we may have a difference in approach, but it should never be a difference in the goal. Should never be a difference in the goals, what we got to do. We got to register people to vote, and they got to vote. We got to register people to march, and they got to march. We got to register people to really go out and get those folks who don't want to vote and make them vote. Nobody should be allowed to identify with the Democratic Party who's not a registered voter. You can't help the party if you can't vote. I see my 3 minutes are almost up. I want to thank you all so much for coming, and thanks for the opportunity to share these brief words. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Always a pleasure. Good to see you, too. Well, you're doing good. Always good to see you. All right. Yeah. Call me.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. At this time, we will have Mr. Shamara Figurs, Congressman, 2nd Congressional District of Alabama. 3 minutes, Congressman.
Shout out to Dr. Mitchell for keeping us on time. To my wife, my mother, Faya, to you, to the man who eulogized my father nearly 30 years ago, Senator Sanders, thank you. But most importantly, to those foot soldiers who stood up. I am standing on this stage because of you. So thank you. It is a privilege to be here, but it's also a sad time to have to be here, because as Hank is talking about the need, the priority that we have in this museum, it's symbolic, because we're at a time right now where we're seeing those museums attacked. We need to preserve this museum, because if we don't do it, we certainly cannot rely on this administration to do it, because I just had to do a press conference with Hakeem Jeffries and Terry Sewell yesterday in Montgomery, because this administration has listed the National Freedom Ride Museum in Montgomery for sale. So that's true. These are the times that we find ourselves in. And we have to be vigilant. We have to fight. We have to keep up the work. But fortunately, there is a playbook. There's a playbook that was deployed here 60 years ago that showed us what we need to do, what we have to do, and how to do it. It's a playbook that showed us what this team has to look like. It's a team of roles. It's a team of different responsibilities. Everybody has a role. Not everybody will throw the ball. Not everybody will catch the ball, but we all have a role, and we must stay unified in that goal. In Washington, we will continue to push back. We will continue to make sure that we're working through legislation to try to push back against this administration. I know Maya and Damon and Janae, they will make sure that we're continuing to push back through litigation. But most importantly, we have to push back through registration, education, and motivation for people to go vote. Because we would not be here. We would not be here if people had taken advantage of the opportunity that those foot soldiers nearly died for us to have. We all have an obligation in making sure that we uphold that legacy. We all have an obligation in making sure that we get out and make our voices heard, to make our communities better, because they didn't do that just to be able to walk into a ballot box. They did that because they knew that the power of your community, the power of your future, the power of this nation resides in what you can do once you get in that ballot box. So the ball is in our hands. The ball is in our hands. And so 2 years from now, we get another shot at it. So let's make sure that we're doing everything that we can collectively to uphold the honor, the legacy, the memory, and the hard work and sacrifice that the people made here in Selma, Alabama. As a humble beneficiary of those efforts, I say thank you. Thank you. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Congressman. Is Ms. Barbara Onwine here? Okay. We will have Mr. Wally S. Adams, President of the National Bar Association. 3 minutes.
Good morning and greetings. On behalf of the National Bar Association, I bring you greetings. I am Wiley Adams, the 82nd President of the National Bar Association. The National Bar represents the interest of 67,000 lawyers, judges throughout the country. I am very pleased to be here with you today, and how fitting it is that this breakfast is called the Unity Breakfast, because that is why I came to Selma today seeking unity. And one thing that I think we must do before we leave this place is come together again and come up with a strategy, a plan, working together, arm in arm. That's what we must do. I will take a point of personal privilege to call out 2 events coming up for the National Bar Association. The first event is that 100 years ago, this year, 1925, the National Bar Association was created in Des Moines, Iowa. The reason this bar association exists is that our founders were denied a seat at the table. We were not allowed to join the other prevailing bar association, so we did what we always do. We created our own table. So we have been in the fight, the struggle, for over 100 years now, and our work continues to this day. We will celebrate our centennial in Chicago, Illinois, my hometown, South Side, from July 26th to August 1st. Hope to see many of your faces in the place. The other thing I have to say is that while Dr. King and Coretta Scott are not physically with us today, they're certainly with us spiritually. And Dr. King has left us plenty to guide us. They've given us the map. We've been here before. And 2 things come to mind from Dr. King. One, it is always the right time to do the right thing. And as far as the election is concerned, Dr. King once said that sometimes we must accept finite loss, but we must never lose infinite hope. So God bless you. Thank you. My time is up. Thank you.
All right. And next we will have Ms. Selena Stewart, CEO of the League of Women Voters of the United States. 3 minutes.
Good morning, family. My name is Selena Stewart. I am CEO of the League of Women Voters of the United States. Thank you. Thank you. Since they're waving at me, I want to just say I am joined by our president, Diana Nguyen, and also so many folks across the country who are also League presidents and League members here today. It is such a pleasure to be in this room and to celebrate diversity and collective power, and it is so needed in this moment. I'm honored to be celebrating Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, but understand that the fight ahead of us is still very hard. The blood, sweat, and tears that our heroes shed, not only Rep. John Lewis, Hosea Williams, they really led the way for us across that bridge, but also across the nation. Had it not been for that moment of seeing that on television, people would not have been activated. The freedoms that we have now are under attack, not only since Shelby, but even more so now. To see federal workers being fired illegally, to see the rollback of rights that we have experienced and enjoyed for decades, and to see so many of our predecessors and peers' work coming to either a halt or being disgraced. I think about the SAVE Act, which requires proof of citizenship to vote. Birthright citizenship came out of the 14th Amendment of post-slavery. It was a way to ensure that people who had served so much in this country actually had the right to citizenship, just like everyone else. Except we had to have our rights renewed every 25 years, whereas other communities did not. These attacks on us now are hyper-focused on marginalized communities, including Black and brown people, women, the LGBTQI community, disabled folks, And I want to make sure that even though this playbook is familiar, we need to make it clear, not on our watch, not in our country, not now. It does not escape me that I am only the second Black CEO at the League of Women Voters in 105 years. I am part of the 92%, leading a primarily white organization. And I want to make it very clear that I understand the assignment. And I do not have to tell Black people this. I don't have to tell anyone this. There is no Calvary coming. We are the Calvary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have Ms. Melanie Campbell, President of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation.
Good morning, Selma. Good morning, Selma. How you feeling this morning? Look at your neighbor. Say, how you feeling this morning? Say, you all right? You awake? You ready for the fight? You ready to let them understand we're not going nowhere? You ready for them to understand we will not be erased? Are we ready to cross that bridge this morning and remind ourselves who we are? We built this country. We're not going nowhere. We're here to celebrate. We're here to commemorate. We're here to have joy, as my sister Latasha Brown would say. Rose and Hank, I want to thank you in my 2 minutes and 19 seconds left. The first time I came to Selma was with Reverend James Orange and Cleo Orange and Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry and Evelyn Lowry. And we came and we crossed that bridge so many times. When the cameras were here, yeah. But I came to your home with my ex-husband. He's still a good guy. My ex-husband, Ural Hill, holla, Ural. And we stayed at your home. And we got on that trampoline because we were coming down there. Yeah, I remember that. And we came down here to support you in the 21st century youth. Why? Because they were tracking our kids in public schools. And we went down to the courthouse, and the folks were had chained themselves to the bell. And Smitherman was the mayor. And I remember going into the courtroom and hearing that boy, and I said boy, who had been mayor for 25 years, say, I can get them out of there. How? Because I give them watermelons, and they'll come out of there. So Selma, you have risen through so much. We owe you so much. And all of us who are here, we stand on your shoulders. All the Amelia Boyntons, the Marie Fosters, and so many others. I get myself in trouble in my 52 seconds. But God did not leave us here wanting. He's not missing nothing. That orange man think he's God, but the God I serve, he got him. He watching. Don't get distracted by Elon Musk. He's a boy in man's clothing. None of what I was supposed to say have I said. But God spoke to me to say this in my 17 seconds. That when we leave and we cross that bridge, we are on the race to victory. We are winning, as my sister said. We are winning. Say it with me. We are winning. Stand up. We are winning. Stand up. We are winning. Stand up. We are winning. God bless you. Peace and power.
All right. Next, we will have Mrs. Maya Wiley, President and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. 3 minutes.
Look, after my sister soror, Melanie, I'm going to be real brief. Yeah, my soror, yeah, woo-woo.
woo woo. Okay. All right, but Divine Nine, I know you're all here. Look, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights is all of us. If I ask all of the leaders who are part of the members of the nation's oldest and largest civil rights coalition, I ask you to stand up. I ask you to stand up. I ask you to stand up. And this isn't even all of us. This isn't even all of us. But the reason I ask for this is because you have heard the word unity multiple times today. But I want you to see what you already feel in this room, which is that we are unified. And this coalition is 75 years old. 75 years. But I say that because on this 60th anniversary of Selma, this is a coalition that could not have won the Voting Rights Act without the work of every single person who sacrificed to make it happen. But here's the thing, and our sister mother, Fire Rose, said this, but this is not an administration. It's a regime. It is a regime. And I know that when our forebears marched, when the foot soldiers that are here and all the folks who are unnamed but have names did the work, they did the work that is on the chopping block. And the only way we stop it is because we know why we're here. We are not here just to commemorate. We are here to emulate. The emulation isn't just about remembering. It's about rising up. Rising up for an America that lives up to its ideals, because we have not yet reached the promised land. And here's the other thing. The promised land is not a promise. Democracy is a demand. And what we are doing is demanding now for what is coming next week. They want to let Derek Chauvin free. No. They want to tell us that our schools should not have money and that our classrooms should be underfunded. They want to tell us that our students who have disabilities should not get services. And they want to shut down the government. They're willing to do it to stop us from all we marched and fought for. So what do we say? We fight. We fight. We fight. And we fight until we get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have is Cheyenne Webb Kreisberg, foot soldier, civil rights activist, and author. 3 minutes.
Good morning. While protocol has already been set in order, I stand here this morning as the youngest foot soldier that was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday March. That day, March 7th, 1965, marked a defining moment for me and for the nation. A day that changed my life forever. On that day of Bloody Sunday in 1965, a puzzle came together, not the way in which we had hoped for, but the pieces of the puzzle started on that day. It wasn't just about the march, but it was about what the march represented. All of the courageous foot soldiers who were on that march, they put the pieces of that puzzle together for unity. And we all came together for our freedom. And we became much stronger and even more determined as ever. So I say to you, this morning, Congressman Shamari, I say to all of you this morning, lest we forget all of our foot soldiers, the unsung heroes, the unsung sheroes, and those who are still with us today, lest we forget. And as we continue to put the pieces of the puzzle together, we just can't come here and celebrate and commemorate and reflect, as Maya said. We must rededicate ourselves and making a commitment to go back to our communities and find ways to not only come together, stay together, and keep fighting. Keep fighting, and let's do the work. Let's do the work. Thank you so very much.
Next, we will have Mr. Ken Martin, Chair of the Democratic National Committee.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ken Martin. I am the recently elected chair of the Democratic National Committee. And thank you so much. Before I start, I want to acknowledge, of course, the chairman of the Alabama Democratic Party, Randy Kelly. Again, thank you, Randy. And of course, Dr. Joe Reed, thank you for all that you've done. You know, I was born in 1973, less than a decade after voting rights and civil rights were passed into law, and less than a decade from Bloody Sunday. Now, I don't feel like I'm very old. I have two boys in college who would probably disagree, but my point is that none of what we see right now and feel here in Selma today is mythological. What happened at the end of the bridge is not simply a chapter in history books that some would like and are trying to erase. It's a moment within a single existing lifetime of today's America. It's a moment of profound civil and societal consequence for not only the 20th century, but also the 21st. Millions upon millions of people in America today and generations not yet born are personally impacted by the men and women who face that wall of troopers and refuse to blink. You know, in talking with folks this morning, I heard echoes of Bloody Sunday that have not got fainter, but instead grown louder since the beginning of this year. On Inauguration Day, instead of listening to that orange monster, I traveled to Atlanta to attend the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. service at Ebenezer Baptist, and then marched the streets with some of our friends in the labor movement. It's hard to believe it's only been a month and a half since then. It's hard to believe how much destruction one person, Donald Trump, can cause in such a short time. And it's hard to believe how many shameless people have co-signed their names to that destruction because they stand to benefit. This politics I'm talking about is a politics of rage and retribution and greed. It's an amassing of undemocratic power and unfathomable wealth for pure personal gain, not for the improvement of people's lives. And hear my words. The collateral damage being inflicted by this administration is not out of negligence or carelessness. It's the whole point. What is happening right now in Washington is a direct attack on the rights that were secured in Selma by spilled blood. Our party, the party I'm representing here today, will do everything in its power to ensure that that blood was not spilled in vain. We will work to protect, reaffirm, and when necessary, reestablish the laws, rights, and protections that so many black leaders and communities in the South and around their country spent their lives fighting for. We will commit to investing significantly and substantially in Southern organizing, in your works to reenfranchise voters and end gerrymandering, and in mobilizing and protecting American voters across every community and every country. And finally, we will never, ever, ever give up on the fight for justice or abandon the march for equal standing in this nation. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Next, we will have Mrs. Deborah Archer, President of ACLU.
He just said to me 3 minutes, and I said 3.5. So, all right, good morning, everybody. I'm proud to join you on behalf of the ACLU. I am the first person of color to serve as president in the organization's 104-year history. So I'm proud to join you. And the ACLU is, of course, proud to partner with you in the important work of protecting our democracy and defending our rights. And although I've been a civil rights attorney for 30 years, this is my first time at Jubilee, and I think this is my first time in Selma. But I'm here, I think, at the right time. I cannot remember a more important moment in my lifetime for all of us to come together as a community. And it truly is a blessing to be alive right now. Not only are we blessed to reap the benefits of the courage and the sacrifice of those who fought and led and organized and survived before us so that we could have the opportunity to be together in this room, so that we could have the opportunity to lead. But we are also blessed to be alive in this moment when our courage and our leadership and our sacrifice is so desperately needed. We are blessed to have the opportunity to work for justice when there is such vital and important work for us to do. And as my sister Maya said, we're not here just to remember, but we're here to recommit. Not just to honor the past, but to recognize that the fight of 1965 is heartbreakingly the fight of 2025. In 1965, our struggle was to make America a true democracy, to secure the fundamental right to vote that had long been denied to Black citizens. The march from Selma to Montgomery and the blood that was spilled on that bridge was meant to protect Black voters and create access to opportunities to participate for us. And yet today, we're still fighting that same fight. We're fighting efforts to strip power from Black and brown communities. And now this is more than just a fight to protect access for the most marginalized among us. It is actually a fight to protect our democracy itself. In 1965, we were fighting to make real the mandate that separate could never be equal. That victory in Brown versus Board of Education was meant to tear down those walls of segregation. But those walls never truly fell. And today we see efforts to resegregate our communities, not only our schools, but our workplaces and our communities. And in 1965, we were fighting against terror and racist violence, the violence that killed Jimmy Lee Jackson, Medgar Evers, and countless others. So today, we too have to keep marching like others did. We must march in our cities, demanding police accountability and community investment. We must march in our schools, fighting against school book bans, censorship, and the harassment of our children. We have to march in our courtrooms, defending the laws and protections that were won through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. The bridge is more than a monument, it's a message, and that message is that justice is never given, only fought for. A message that democracy only exists when we stand up and fight for it. So today we have to stand.
Thank you. At this time, we will have a musical selection by the original Freedom Singers.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, oh no, oh no. Ain't gonna let nobody. I'm gonna keep on walking, yeah, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. Well, ain't gonna let racism. Oh no, oh no, ain't gonna let racism. I'm gonna keep on walking, yeah, marching. Well, ain't gonna let nobody
Thank you very much. Next, we will have Mr. Fred Redmond, Secretary Treasurer, AFL-CIO. 3 minutes.
Well, good morning, Selma. I didn't like that music, so I'm going to try to be respectful of my 3 minutes, okay? First of all, my name is Fred Redmond. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the AFL-CIO, and I want to bring you greetings and solidarity from our President, Leah Schuler, and the 15 million members in our 63 national unions that make up the AFL-CIO. Look, the labor movement was formed on the principle that we are committed to stand for freedom and justice on behalf of working people throughout this country. And it's been a struggle, but that is nothing new because we all know that the struggle is a constant one. To protect our rights, to have a say in our democracy, and to protect our democracy from those who will stop at nothing for power for their own personal gain. And at this moment, we have a lot of protecting to do. There are so many attacks on our rights, our freedoms, marginalized communities, on the federal and state workforce, and the government agencies that provide essential services to the American people, and the list goes on. And the American labor movement is engaged in these battles and will continue to fight tooth and nail and live up to our values and vanquish oppression in all of its ugly forms. But as we fight, brothers and sisters, I want y'all to keep this in mind. As we fight, we also have to address how we got to this moment. We have to address why the institutions that we hold near and dear to our hearts are cracking and crumbling before our very eyes. And I believe the current instability of our democracy is precisely because of the erosion of workers' rights and access to the ballot box. You know, this past Wednesday, I joined with Maya Wiley and my sister Melanie Campbell as we stood in support of Representative Sue Wells as she reintroduced the John Lewis Voting Rights Amendment Act. And on that same day, the Protect the Right to Organize the PRO Act was reintroduced in the Senate. Voting rights, the right to form a union, is appropriate because these bills was introduced on the same day, because they go hand in hand. So look, the American labor movement will not rest until the power of our voice at work and at the ballot box is truly heard, and we stand with all of you in solidarity. Let's get this done. Thanks, brother. Thank you. I was close, right?
You were close. You were fine. Next, we will have Damon T. Hewitt, President and Executive Director, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. 3 minutes.
Good morning, Selma. Good morning, civil rights. Good morning, racial justice. Good night, racism. Good night, hatred. Good riddance. That's been our cry for over 60 years in this movement, in Selma, and also at the organization I'm proud to lead, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. I'm Damon Hewitt, President and Executive Director of an organization founded just days after Medgar Evers was assassinated in the driveway of his own home, just days after George Wallace stood in the schoolhouse door to block not just integration in a legal sense, but opportunity, to block voice, block power for black people in Alabama and nationwide. Talking about segregation now, segregation forever. See, our forever vision is different in this movement. Now, we were born as an organization at a time of national crisis, and we're once again in such a time. In the decades since, we got through with people like Fire Rose Toure, like Hank Sanders, like my friend Jaribu Hill, who I saw here earlier, through predecessors of my organization, like Barbara Onwine, like Kristen Clark, and so many others, UW Clement, who I saw last night, right? So when we think about what got us through, what got us over in time of national crisis, there are 3 lessons from the past that can also help us right now and in the future. Number 1, know who your friends are. You know, there was a Black History Month celebration in Washington, D.C. not long ago, convened by people who actually wish black people were history. Because if all we celebrate is black history and not build black futures, black history is all we will have left. Know who your friends are and who are not. Second, force the issue. We were giving hip-hop quotes yesterday, so I said, sometimes you got to pop out and show racists exactly who we are, like we did with our client, Metropolitan AME Church, when we not only got a multi-million-dollar judgment against the Proud Boys who vandalized their church, but helped them take the Proud Boys logo and trademark so they can no longer profit from it. Took it from them. And then finally, you know what they say about excuses. Don't let this purple tie fool you. I'm an alpha, right? Come on now. They say about excuses, bridges to nowhere, monuments to nothingness. But when we march across that bridge, it's not just physical, it's metaphysical, it's metaphorical. So we have to not just fight back, we also have to fight forward. So today isn't the beginning, but today is an inflection point, and what fighting forward looks like. And we at the Lawyers Committee are proud to be fighting forward with you. Many of our staff are here. We'll be here all weekend. We're here every year. We'll be at the march as well. Love you all. Thank you. Thanks, Doctor. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we will have Azali Fortier, North Star 21st Century Youth Leadership Movement, and a student at Spelman College. And Azali, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, let's shoot for 3, shall we? Well, hello everyone. My name is Azali Fortier. I'm a 17-year-old sophomore at Spelman College. I major in English on the pre-law track and minor in psychology. And I am also the president of North Star 21st Century Youth Leadership Movement, my apologies, from the North Star Beloved Community Foundation. And today I would like to talk to you about unity, because to be unified is to be protected, and to unify is to protect, and that is our duty to each other. In my hands, I have 10 sticks. In my right hand, I have 10 sticks. In my left hand, I have 10 sticks. And these sticks are meant to represent us as a community. When we come together, can everybody hear me fine? Okay, perfect. When we come together, we cannot be broken. But when we are apart, we are easily broken with minimal effort. I will pick this up. But yes, minimally, there's barely anything, like barely any effort, you know. I'm a strong girl, but you know, I'm not working out every day. I definitely miss the gym. So like, we can't hear you. When we are alone, the point is that we are easily broken. But it does not take much and all of us to unify to be protected. If we have 3, I'm putting in effort and cannot break it. I add 2 more, we have 5. I put in the effort, we cannot be broken as easily. I put in 10. we come together, we cannot be broken. It's important that we make sure that we protect each other so that we will not be broken, so that we can make sure that through unity, our communities are protected, our people are protected, our children are protected, our churches and institutions are protected, that we are protected, that our future is protected. Because when they unified, you see what it did to us. I'll end off with quickly our pledge. If you could repeat after me. I am a 21st century leader. I must prepare myself to be the very best that I can be. I must prepare my body, my spirit, and my mind, and in time, I'll shine, you'll shine, we'll shine in the light of love, justice, and peace. And peace will shine in the 21st century like never before. Like never before. Like never before. I am. You are. We are 21st century leaders.
Thank you, Azali. Next, we will have Ms. Janae Nelson, President and Director Counsel of the Legal Defense Fund. 3 minutes.
Good morning. Good morning and grand rising and happy Jubilee. It is so important that we remember the joy even in the midst of all of the turmoil, all of the threat, all of the fear, because it is joy that will get us through, that brought people to Selma every year to commemorate what sacrifice was made to birth this democracy. I am Janae Nelson, the President and Director Counsel of the Legal Defense Fund, and I stand here proudly representing an organization that is 85 years old today. I'm here with many of my colleagues from the Legal Defense Fund. Please stand or raise your hand. And this is a tradition that is something that at the Legal Defense Fund we cherish every single year. Not only because we helped get the marchers across the bridge by filing the lawsuit Williams versus Wallace that laid out the route for the path across the bridge to Montgomery to ensure the safety of the marchers after Bloody Sunday, led by attorneys like Jack Greenberg and Constance Baker Motley and Fred Gray and some of the heroes of our time. But because the fight has continued, because Selma has been a battleground for the advancement of our democracy. I said yesterday that next year we'll be celebrating the 250th anniversary of this country, but we know that it is really just 60 years old. We know that the birth certificate of this country is the Voting Rights Act of 1965, because it would not have been a multiracial democracy were it not for the sacrifice of the foot soldiers, some of them as young as 9 years old when they were crossing the bridge. And so when I thought about today's theme of piecing together the puzzle of unity for our freedom, we already have the pieces. And don't let anyone tell us that we don't. I know that in this room we have members of the 92% that voted in record unity. We have members of the 85%. So when they talk about piecing together the puzzle of our unity, there is no community that is more unified than us. There's no community that is as clear about the threat that we're facing right now than us. There's no community that has been a better bellwether and canary in the mine than us. So when we tell you this country is on a path to destruction, we know what we're talking about because we've seen it, we live it, we've been fighting it for our entire existence on these shores. So let's bring that spirit of the foot soldiers with us today and going forward as we continue to challenge the threats. And thank you so much for having us visit Selma every year. We're grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will have the Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Mr. Andy Beshear.
Good morning. It is truly an honor to be with you here today. 60 years ago, on a cold March morning, history was made right here in Selma. We stand on the shoulders of those brave men and women who set out on a journey we continue today. They marched together for their right to vote in this country, a country their ancestors helped build, shape, and even defend. They marched for the promise of change for a better future for their kids. But they were met at a bridge by an Alabama governor filled with hatred and ignorance. He stood for violence, not peace. Suppression, not freedom. But I'm proud this day that this Kentucky governor will stand with you, will walk beside you, and we will march forward together. Like that day in Selma, many who now wield power, they're using it to push people down and not lift them up. But those foot soldiers who came from all over to this town refused to bend to that power. They refused to stay down. What they did 60 years ago led to monumental change. It helped lead to the passage of the Voting Rights Act, enshrining into law unprecedented voter protections. But make no mistake, those seeking to divide us have been chipping away at the Voting Rights Act for years, and they will not stop, which means the fight for progress marches on. Looking out on this crowd, I see a few pastors, some elders, and some fellow deacons. Like you, I'm guided by my faith. It tells me that 60 years ago, the toughest people weren't the state troopers with the batons or the tear gas, but those trailblazers armed with their faith and the determination to make the moral arc of the universe bend towards justice. It reminds me of how in my faith Jesus was tougher than the nails that pinned him to the cross, but he refused to bow to violence. He could have been the Prince of Power. He chose to be the Prince of Peace. What the marchers showed 60 years ago is that hatred isn't strength. Strength is doing right by our neighbors. Strength is having the courage to stand up for the rights and the dignity of everyone. That day in Selma led to real change that helped move our country forward. So today's march is to honor 60 years of courage, but also to make sure that the next generation does not forget the sacrifices that were made at that bridge and on that ground. I get that I will never be able to feel the ever-present weight of racism, inequality, and injustice. And I cannot know the pain and the scars of moments like what happened 60 years ago. But I'm committed to listening, to trying to hear, and then taking intentional steps forward for a better world. That's why in my first week in office, I restored voting rights to nearly 200,000 Kentuckians. It's why I removed the statue of Jefferson Davis from our state capitol. It's why I made Juneteenth a state holiday for the first time in our history. It's why I signed a Crown Act so no one would be discriminated against because of their hairstyle. In contrast, the current administration wants to make diversity a dirty word. They want you to believe that equity means you aren't worthy of opportunity. Here's where I stand. I believe that diversity is always a strength and never a liability. that our diversity of backgrounds make us stronger and better, and that in these days it is our job to speak up and speak out. Right now on the cable news, they're saying, where is the voice? Well, I think what Selma tells us is there wasn't one voice that day, but the collective courage of people who walk towards justice even when it put them in the way of violence. So folks, these days, we all have a voice. We all have an ability to speak out directly, and our collective voice can win the day. Thank you all. God bless. Let's speak up. Let's speak out. Let's work with each other. Let's move this country forward. Thank you all.
All right. At this time, we will have a special announcement by Ms. Ianka Jackson.
That's what happens when you're really short and you wear a long dress. Good morning. My name is Ianka Jackson. I'm the co-executive director of the Bridge Crossing Jubilee. First, I would like to just thank God for all of the amazing people that make this commemoration and activation happen. So first, our foot soldiers, because we definitely would not be here without them, and also all of our volunteers, our board members, our staff, and our sponsors. You heard some of this event, but also want to just say a special thanks to the ACLU and the ACLU of Alabama. Yes, give it up for them, not just for being a sponsor, but for their amazing work all over the country. For Black Voters Matter, let's give it up for them as well. I said last night that they did not forget for which they came, and I am truly appreciative of that. And lastly, I want to tell you just briefly about PERC, Partnership for Equitable and Resilient Communities. So many people come to Selma, they use our infrastructure, but they don't invest in it. PERC is different. They said that we are going to invest in Selma, and so they have leveraged and invested so that we can get literally millions and millions of dollars poured into infrastructure, housing, and economic development. And things are shifting. People can feel the energy. So I want to say thank you for PERC and all of that you all are investing in Selma and that you invested in the Jubilee. Lastly, let me just say, when my father, Hank Sanders, moved here, before he moved here, he was a Talladega College student and participated in the last part of the march. And Dr. King said, how long? Not long. And he thought he would move here, him and my mom would move here for 5 years, and they would have elected enough Black people and things would be different. And I used to think that that was because there was it was a eternal view of timing. But I've come to believe, because the moral arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice, and we are the arc benders. Because we have to bend it more, we have to work more. And so as my time is up, I just want you to know that the time is up for hate. Say, time's up. The time is up for fear. Say, time's up. The time is up for racism and sexism. Time's up. But you know what? The time is always right to do what is right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, trying to find my place on the program. Next, we will have Mr. Mark Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League. 3 minutes, Mr. Morial.
No sermon and no sermonette. First of all, good morning. I'm honored to be here this morning with all of you on what I believe is a holy day, a very important day, and I stand here as a part of the generation that had an opportunity to walk through doors, climb ladders, serve in public office because of the struggles of the people 60 years ago. And every one of us should acknowledge the responsibility we now have in this moment when civil rights and progress has become under vociferous attack. What we see today is an attack, a war that's been declared on civil rights and on us. And that war manifests itself in the absurdity of executive orders, the layoffs of federal employees, efforts to dismantle the Department of Education, the EEOC, the CFPB, and agencies across the board. In the face of this, what I share with you today is that today is commemorative, but today should be also about a recommitment. And the only question is, will we commit? Will we commit to say we will not rest, we will not sleep, we will not even take a nap until the Voting Rights Advancement Act is passed by the Congress and signed by the President of the United States? We will not give in, and we will not rest until we reverse these hateful, divisive attacks on the progress we've made. There's only one question in front of us as a generation. Those that marched way back in the 1950s and the 1960s, they did it when there were no black elected officials anywhere in the South. They did it when almost 50% of our people lived in poverty, and they did it at a time when they did not have what we have today. So I close by saying the only question is, do we have the will? Do we have the nerve? Do we have the passion? Do we have the courage to fight until we end this hateful and divisive attack on civil rights and on our people? Do we have the will? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Ms. LaTosha Brown, co-founder of the Black Voters Matter. 3 minutes, LaTosha.
By and by, Lord, when the morning comes, all of the saints will come together as one. We will tell the story, how we overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. Amen? We are here today because 60 years ago there was something that happened, and we are bearing witness. We are to tell the story, and not to tell the story just so that for history's sake, but we're here to tell the story of what we need to do in this moment. Brothers and sisters, I only got 3 minutes, and three things I want to say. This is a moment for us to really resist. That if we normalize what's happening right now, then we affirm it. And so we can't act like what's abnormal is normal. It is not. What we're looking at is over $800 million in this proposed budget to be cut towards Medicaid. That we're looking at the poorest of the poor, the ones that if you're a Christian that Jesus told us was a responsibility for us to lift up, that they will suffer. The second thing we got to do is we've got to use our resilience. In this moment, it requires creativity. Each and every organization we got, your churches, the organizations that you have, we can't just have a church service on Sunday. You got to open it up. It has to be community space. We have to organize in ways that we've not organized before. The third and the final thing that I say, and I asked people last night to do it. I'll ask again real quickly. I ask you to close your eyes. And I have 2 questions to you. My first question is, what would America look like without racism? And the second question is, what would this nation be if all human beings felt valued and respected? And so I know I don't have a lot of time. I ask those two questions because if we're not asking ourselves that question and literally trying to create the answer, we will keep repeating the same thing that we've been repeating. It is time for us to move outside of this thing that we're just thinking that it was the act of voting. Those 600 people that were on the foot of the bridge had something greater. It wasn't about how we just get the right to vote. It was really about affirming their humanity, that God has created us in such a way that we are supposed to be honored and treated as God's children. And not because of your title or what you do, but just your very presence. So in this, I will leave and say that in the dark night, that is when you see the stars. And so there are some stars in the sky, y'all, that are shining bright. There are some stars we're seeing that they're actually, I was looking at the North Star, and I'm getting ready to go. The North Star, which is where Harriet Tubman followed. And I thought it was the brightest star in the sky. It's not. It's the most consistent star in the sky. But there's also dead stars. And dead stars are stars that have died millions of years ago. All we are seeing is their former glory days. Some stars, it is over. It is done. In the night is when we see our stars. So as I leave, I'll just leave with saying, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Peace and love, y'all.
Okay. As a further show of unity this year with our program, we have a partner working with us. The program that started this morning was what we would call our local programming. And the second part of the program will be with the Faith and Politics Institute. This is they will now have this part of the program, and what we're going to do is all who would like to stay for that portion of the program, you are more than welcome. But this ends the local Unity Breakfast part of our program. So whoever's here for Faith and Politics for their portion of the program, please come forward. Congresswoman Sewell, I understand that you will be.
We got to tell them about the march. Excuse me. Before Faith and Politics comes up, you have to have information about the march. The march time was changed to 12 o'clock. It is no longer 2 o'clock.
We're so thankful. Congresswoman Sewell, your hometown member, we want to welcome you to the stage. Congresswoman Terry Sewell.
I was trying to give information.
Congresswoman Terry Sewell. And Representative Clyburn. Congresswoman Sewell and her delegation. We have the CBC chair, Yvette Clark. We have the wonderful Robin Kelly.
She's going to introduce him. She's going to do it.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all can do it better than that. Good morning, everyone. Please, as members make their way, as well as the representatives from Faith and Politics, we have a whole stage, people. We have a whole stage. We have a whole stage. We have a whole stage. All right. I was told to announce the march time is 12 noon. The march will take place at the foot of the bridge starting at 12 noon. I'm Congresswoman Sewell. I proudly represent Alabama's 7th District. It includes the historic cities of Birmingham and Tuscaloosa and Marion and Camden, and yes, my hometown of Selma, Alabama. So welcome to my hometown. I am standing here with members of Congress, senators and members of Congress, as well as board members of Faith and Politics Institute. I'd like to make sure that all the members are recognized. We have Senator Angela Alsobrooks from Maryland. We have Congresswoman LaMonica from McIvers from New Jersey. We have Wesley Bell from Missouri, Jonathan Jackson from Illinois, Troy Carter from Louisiana, Robin Kelly from Illinois. We have Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar. Where are you, Pete? All right. We also have Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus PAC, none other than Gregory Meeks from New York. We have Senator Warnock. Where's Senator Warnock from Georgia? We also have the DNC Chair, Ken Martin, somewhere here. Where's Ken? Want to acknowledge Ken? We also have with us Johnny O from Maryland, as well as Sarah from Maryland. Woohoo! We also have, I know, Tim Kennedy we have. Where's Tim? All right. Did I miss anybody? Oh, we have our Lieutenant Governor from Virginia, none other than Lieutenant Governor Sears. Thank you for being here. We have Joe Morelli from Rochester, New York. We, of course, have Troy Carter from Louisiana. Where's Troy? I just want you to know that Congress is well represented in this place. And, of course, my partner in Alabama, and none other than Shamari Figures. You've already heard him speak, but I can't tell you how grateful I am, Alabama, that you sent to Congress Shamari Figures. I'm going to defer to Jim Clyburn to say a few words. The board member, okay. Who's going to speak for the board? So Cheryl's going to come and speak for the board. I know former clerk of the House.
Good morning. We are so happy to be here. I am Cheryl Johnson, Vice Chair of Faith and Politics. And I would like you all to know that we are carrying on the legacy of John Lewis. And we're carrying it on to the next generation because we want them to know that the freedom they enjoy today was hard fought and that they should reflect and realize that we are not going back, that we are going forward. And I would like to introduce you to one of 30 students we have here with us in Selma that's part of our John Lewis Scholars Program. His name is Jamal Edwards, and he's representative of the 30 that we have who are here and who are learning their history and learning all about the richness of Alabama and what the foot soldiers have given us. So Jamal, I'd like you to say a few words.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord, everybody.
Praise the Lord.
I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. My heartbeat was right on time. I opened my eyes and I could see, and all my limbs, they worked. I thank God for life. And indeed, and if you know it, say it with me, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. My name is Jamal Edwards, great-grandson of Pearlie Mae Crockett of Ogden, Arkansas, born 1912. No one in this room knows her. She never made the headlines and never had books written about her. She is what some might call ordinary. But without her, there'd be no me. Without her, there would be no message from me today. And let me tell you, I'm on divine assignment. So here's what I have to say. I arrived in Montgomery on Wednesday as part of the John Robert Lewis Fellows Program. And over the past few days, I stood in places where history was made. But more than that, where history was fought for. And I'm reminded of the gospel, Joel 1, verse 2 through 3. Hear this, you elders. Listen, all who live in this land. Has anything ever happened in your days or in the days of your ancestors? Tell it to your children. And let your children tell it to their children and their children to the next generation. We are here today because somebody told the story. Somebody carried the torch. Somebody marched, fought, bled, and believed that freedom was worth sacrifice. And this week I sat with elders who did not just witness the movement, but they built it. I walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and I linked arms with Miss Ruby Shuttlesworth Bester, daughter of Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. Before that moment, we had never met. but I knew her. Because I know my mother, I know my grandmother, and I know my great-grandmother. And in her, I saw all of them. I also visited the Legacy Museum, where the truth was laid bare from enslavement to mass incarceration. And it forced me to ask, what will they say about this generation? What will they say we did with the freedom they fought for? And just this week, we learned that this administration is threatening to sell off the historic Montgomery bus station where freedom riders were beaten for daring to desegregate public transit. Think about that. Really think about it. This very site where young men and women were met with fists, chains, and fire could be erased from history just with the stroke of a pen. This is why we must remain vigilant. Our beloved John Lewis once said, "You are light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light." And the light of John Lewis was never dimmed, because in the face of billy clubs, bombings, and brutality, he still believed. And along with belief, we must act. We must ensure that progress does not become a footnote in history, but remains the prelude to a better future. Now, y'all, I work for Microsoft on AI policy issues, and let me tell you, the technological shifts of our time, artificial intelligence, automation, digital equity, it will shape who is included and who is excluded. We must fight to ensure that these advancements serve all people, not just some. So I'm leaving Selma with the charge, and it's this. Now hear me. Freedom is never final, and progress is never permanent. But I hold on to the promise in Psalm 30, chapter 5. And if you know it, say it with me. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Our ancestors endured the night so that we could have this morning, this very morning. But morning is not the end, it's the beginning. So what will we do with the light? I ask you. Today I stand here not just as Jamal Edwards, great-grandson of Pearlie Mae Crockett. I stand here as one in a long line of those who refuse to accept the world as it is, and instead demand it to be better. May we be worthy of their sacrifice, may we be faithful to their vision, and may we never stop marching. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Again, he is one of 30 who we have with us this weekend. They've been here since Wednesday, and he's the 5th cohort since 2021 to honor John Lewis. We have been bringing 30 young people, just like Jamal, every weekend. And I would like to announce my other board members who's here. Craig Emanuel, and Tiffany Moore, and Joyce Brayboy.
And Dave is in the audience.
Come on, man. And Dave, our chair. Dave Maritano, where are you? I don't see Dave, but Dave has been behind the scenes putting all of this together. So thank you very much. And next is Congressman Jim Clyburn.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for continuing this tremendous breakfast. Dr. Mitchell, I want to thank Dr. Mitchell for all of his efforts to coordinate our getting here today. Fire and Hank Sanders, thanks to the two of you for your efforts. We are trying very hard to continue the legacy of John Lewis, but to do so in such a way that we will respond to the times. You just heard from a young man who spoke of his great-grandmother. All of us are obligated to do what is necessary to meet the moment. And if Senator Warnock were standing here today, he might take a passage from Matthew 25. But most people, when they go to Matthew 25, they rush down to the 40th and the 45th verses, doing for the least of these. But right around the 14th verse of Matthew 25, down through the 30th verse, we get a parable, the parable of the talents. And we learn from that parable that each and every one of us are given at least one talent. Some have 2, some have 5, but what we learn from that is whatever your talent is, it must be invested in your community. It must be invested in your existence. It must be invested in this great country. And if we fail to make those investments, we will have that which we have taken away. Now, I learned the last time I went to jail, getting in good trouble, that all of us have roles to play. And the last time I went to jail, some of you remember I.D. Quincy Newman. Reverend Newman was the guy that always helped us get organized. And those of us who were students, we would go out, we were marching, we would test the laws, we would disobey unjust laws, and we would end up in jail. But Reverend Newman's job was always to raise the bail. Now, on the last time I went to jail, that night, around 2 o'clock in the morning, as we were sitting in the jail cell waiting to get bailed out, a young person who really wanted to go to jail that day came over to my bunk. And they said to me, "I thought we were going to get out of jail." I said, "Yes, we will." He said, "When?" I said, "Well, we'll probably get out by morning because Reverend Newman is out there raising the bail money. And when he raises the bail money, he'll come and bail us out of jail." He walked away. He came back a little later. He said, "Now, Clyburn, who did you say was out raising the bail money?" I said, "Reverend Newman." He said, "Well, is he that little man with the goatee?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, he's back over in that corner over there." It was 3 days later before we got out of jail. Why? Reverend Newman had no business in jail. His job was to raise the bail. Each one of us got jobs to do. Don't worry about what the other person is doing. Just do your job. We've got a job to do between now and our next election. We've got a job to do between now and the end of this legislative session. We've got a job to do between now and our children's future. Let's don't worry about that other person. Do your job and everything will come out all right. Other than that, we may not ever get out of jail. Thank you.
I want to thank all of my colleagues who are here on this dais. We are all here for one reason, and that is to truly commemorate the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. But we know that this commemoration is not made possible or lasting without passing the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And I want to thank all of my colleagues who have signed on to that bill. I want to thank Rose and Hank Sanders for keeping Jubilee and the power that is in this room because of their vision to year after year after year, whether it's an anniversary or not, making sure that we acknowledge what took place here in Selma. Those who don't know their history are doomed to what? Repeat their history. And we know we cannot repeat the history of the past. On behalf of Alabama's 7th Congressional District, my hometown of Selma, Alabama, I want to thank all of you for being here and leave you with the thought. As Jim said, we all have work to do. We all have work to do. But know that your voice matters, and our collective voice in an era when people are seeking to whitewash our history matters. So we collectively must join together and make sure that our voices are heard. We're not going back. We are moving forward. Our democracy demands that we don't have voter suppression, but we have voter protection and the right to vote by everyone. So I want to thank all of you for being here, especially my colleagues, my many colleagues who were on the stage, and Faith in Politics for bringing us together. Thank you.
You can have all the money in your hands, all the possessions anyone can ever have, but it's all worthless treasure. True worth is only measured not by what you got, but what you got in your heart. You can have